Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the showcase for Morocco.
Morocco is located in the northwest of the African continent and 15 kilometers only from Europe, from which it is separated by the Straits of Gibraltar. The government has made great efforts to reform the economy and promote the foreign direct investment. The economic openness of the Moroccan economy stands at 63%. The European Union is the main trading partner, absorbing some 74% of Moroccan exports, and within the framework of its development policy, Morocco seeks actually to diversify the growth of different sectors, particularly non-agricultural ones, and has paid special attention putting into place infrastructure to grow sectors of high added value and service sectors with high employment. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development has actually just recently published an investment guide to Morocco. We have it here, and I think it's available in the room at the entrance, for which we have provided copies, as I said today, and we take this opportunity to officially launch the investment guide. Let me, at the outset, thank Mr. Fathallah Sijil Massi, who is the director of the Agence Marocaine pour le Développement des Investissements, commonly known as AMDI, for facilitating this guide, and also the government of France for funding this publication. I would like now to call on Mr. Sijil Massi to present the country and the investment opportunities Morocco offers to foreign investors. Mr. Sijil Massi, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I would like, first of all, to say how happy the Moroccan delegation is to be here in Dubai, and to thank warmly the government of the Emirates for the warm hospitality, and to thank also UNCTAD for its collaboration, and it's always efficient organization. Thank you so much, and for hosting this specific event, and for giving the possibility for Morocco to present its case. I'm very happy to be presenting to you the business opportunities and environment in Morocco. I'm very happy to know and see that in the room there are also representatives not only from investors but also from agencies similar to the AMDI, and I would be very happy to be able to also, because this is one of the aims of such meetings, to interact with other agencies in order to be able to multiply the positive effects of promoting business and investments in our countries. So as you very rightly said, we have gained 1 kilometer since your discussion, because we are 14 kilometers, but we are just about 14 to 15 kilometers away from Europe. And this picture really says it all, because the proximity that Morocco enjoys with Europe really enables us to be really very close to our main trading partner, but also to be a regional hub for an investor who is willing to be present in Morocco. And as you can see in this picture, and I see here that there's a pointer, so there it is. We have a port, I will be talking about it later on, a port of Tangier, which is one of the biggest ports in the Mediterranean area, and indeed with good collaboration and interaction with the Dubai Authority as well. When you're basically in this region, for a number of investors, it's basically like being within Europe, but without being actually in Europe. So you have all the benefits of the internal market in Europe because of the proximity, but you have all the competitive costs of being in Morocco. So this is really what we believe is as being the Morocco's main strength and main attractiveness. Now I'm going to go through a certain number of parameters to discuss Morocco's attractiveness today. The macroeconomic fundamentals, because it is a fact that in today's world economy, with all the volatility that we have witnessed in recent years, that sound macroeconomics are important to give confidence and to give visibility to investors. We also, and this has been talked about this morning for those of you who attended the very interesting panel on green FDI, the government support, the reality of the government and public support is very important for the international investor, because any international investor needs to know that there is an interlocutor to back his projects. Of course, infrastructures, and I earlier talked about the port of Tangier, but there are so many others, and the stable and safe environment. Now, just to go rather quickly, because we don't have time and the presentation might be available, and of course, all the elements that you will see here are also present in the excellent guide on investment that has been presented by UNCTAD. But just to point out that we have witnessed two characteristics with regards to our growth of GDP. The first one is stability of the growth. Although you have to understand that a country like Morocco faces a certain number of challenges, not least of them the international crisis, just like anyone else, but also we are an oil importing country. We are not oil producing country. So when prices of oil pick up, we have to pay a higher price. So we face such challenges, but nevertheless, we have a stability in our growth, and also we have an acceleration of our growth, which appears even though we have gone through very tough years during year 2008 and 2009. This has been demonstrated also by our resilience to the crisis, where you can see that even in the worst period of the crisis, Q4 08 and Q1 09, we still had 3.1, 3.7 growth, and of course picking up at 7.2 and 7.8 during the two quarterlies. Now, we believe that we have a steady growth and an accelerated growth with one of the highest in the region during the crisis. This growth has been driven, and this is very interesting because it has been driven by internal demand and public investment. Now, if I was doing this speech 10 to 15 years ago, this presentation, I would have said that it would have been driven by exports. And by that, being more dependent from our main customer, which is Europe, and from then the European economy, whether it's dynamic or slowing down. Now, given the fact that now we are more driven by internal demand and public investment, that creates a larger internal market for investors, but also it gives also another impetus for domestic investment and local and Moroccan investment. Public investment has been growing very quickly. That provides, you will see it later, huge opportunities for international investors. And indeed, this is one of the areas where we have the most diversified presence of international investors in Morocco. Inflation is low, as you can see, one of the lowest in the region. Government debt is decreasing. There again, let me just remind that in the early 80s, even though it might seem like 30 years ago, but in the early 80s, Morocco has had big financial difficulties. Now we have, in 2011, we have a statement by IMF that since at least a decade and even more, that the sound macroeconomic figures are there and that the government debt is no longer a problem with regards to its ratio to GDP. Unemployment rate is slowing down. It's going down, and this is very important because of the social dimension of any economic growth and any economic development. And we give great importance to the social dimension of our scheme of development. And I think that whatever happens elsewhere in the region and beyond proves how strong the link is between economic development and social development. This all gave the capacity of having a certain number of international institutions. I hope that someday I might add UNCTAD as well in this slide, but you have Standard & Poor's, you have Fitch Rating, you have the IMF, giving some strong signals of confidence to the Moroccan market. Now, if you look at the, as I was referring to earlier about the massive government support in the different sectors, we believe that we cannot be competitive in every field, in every sector. So we have to make choices, we have to focus. We are a liberal economy, we are an open market economy, but the government as such has to focus and to give some planification to some sectors of activity so that we can try to be as competitive as possible in those sectors. Those sectors are industry, infrastructures, energy, tourism, agriculture and fishing, logistics, and new technologies. Now, for each one of these sectors, the government has, in partnership with the private sector, elaborated sectorial plans that gives a visibility to investors, two objectives, employment, job creation, investment projects, and export as objectives by 2015 or 2020, depending on the sector of activity. And at the same time, a certain number of measures of incentives that are often horizontal, but could be also specific to the sectors. And this is an approach that has been undertaken by Morocco, and I would like to say that it has been successfully undertaken by our country. Now, if we go through the details, and I will go rather quickly because we don't have time to go in depth in all the different sectorial plannings, and we have a document that is available in the room that gives all the details that are here in this presentation and more. But just to say that, for example, if you take industry, we have targeted 6 sectors to be what we call, how do we call them in English, because I know the French title, les métiers mondiaux du Maroc, the world-class sectors, professions in Morocco. This is offshoring. Now, offshoring is very important because of the first slide I showed you, which is the proximity to Europe and the capacity of having Europe basically offshoring some activities in Morocco, yet being in the same time zone, being 2 or 3 hours away from any European capital, and having the connections that they need. So offshoring has been very successful in Morocco. The automotive industry. Automotive industry is the fastest growing industry in Morocco. In 2 ways. The first one is car manufacturing, because recently Renault, the French company, the car manufacturer, made a major investment in Morocco for 1 billion euro in 10 years, actually, with the production of 400,000 cars, 90% towards exports, but also for equipment in the automotive sector, and that is not only linked to the car manufacturing in Morocco, but also to export beyond Morocco. Aeronautics is a very fast-growing sector in Morocco. Let me just say, without frightening you, quite the opposite, that every time, everywhere that you take a plane, there is at least one piece that is produced in Morocco. That is a fact. Electronics, agriculture and food, textile, and leather. So we have focused on those 6 sectors of activities on which we believe we have competitive advantages for local market and export. Agriculture, we have a Moroccan green plan, which also aims at densifying the production in Morocco. Morocco has always had a very strong agricultural production, some of which is actually exported to the Gulf region as well. But we feel that we can develop a more modern and competitive agriculture because there's still a lot to be done. Fisheries, with all the very long and rich coastline of Morocco, fishing is obviously a very important sector. Tourism, I think that it is quite obvious the reputation Morocco has in the tourist business, but the target now is to reach 20 million tourists by year 2020. We go with round numbers. We had a vision 2010 in the early year 2000. We said we are going to have 10 million by year 2010. We did it. Then we said, wow, it's a great idea, let's go by tens. So we said, okay, we'll have 20 million by year 2020. So let's meet in 2090 and see what happens. Energy, sorry, I have to get back here. Tourism. Energy, we have a new strategy in energy because, as I was saying earlier, we are an oil importing economy. So we have to make sure that we, A, secure our supply, we give general access, we control the demand as much as possible, and of course, we take into consideration the environmental dimension, as well as, in terms of orientation, diversifying, it has been said this morning rather frequently, mobilizing the national resources, and here we will see the renewable energies, energy efficiency, and regional integration. Now, this is one slide I wanted to show this morning, but I couldn't make it. Just to see that, A, the diversification of our energy resources. And this is for year 2009, and this is how we believe we should be in 2020. And this is in the Vision 2020 in energy, with 2 main plans and business opportunities in those plans. These are these 2 here, the solar energy and the wind energy, for which we aim to go from 0% for solar energy to 14% by 2020, 2,000 megawatts. And for the wind, also 2,000 megawatts, reaching from 4% to 14%. So this is just to give you an idea about the solar energy project, which is a $9 billion investment project. These are the different production sites that have been identified with the different capacities. The wind energy is also a major project, 3.5 billion, for there again 2,000 megawatts projected by year 2020. There are also different sites in the northern part of Morocco and all through the Atlantic coast of our country, as you can see here. And these are very windy coastlines, so it enables any investment to be made in this area. Logistics. Now, once we have said that Morocco is a regional hub, which it truly is, it is obvious that the logistic part of the equation needs to be modernized and always amplified. And this is why the major objective is to reduce logistic costs from 20 to 15% of GDP. And this is a major program, and I believe that it's major opportunities for international investors in this area. This is as far as information technology is concerned. I will go into detail, but just to mention that information technology is one of the leading sectors in Morocco on which we are investing for the future. The infrastructures, as I said earlier, the airport. We have 14 international airports in Morocco, with Casablanca airport being the #1 Europe-Africa hub. Tramways, the port of Tangiers, the railways. We have the first high-speed railways in Africa that will be launched by 2015 with a French company, Alstom. And of course, highways. You can see the rapid growth going from 150 kilometers to actually 10 times more last year. In order to enable the international investors to work in a proper environment, efficient environment, we have developed integrated industrial park. Now, what is an integrated industrial park? There again, if I was doing this presentation 10 or 15 years ago, problem #1 in Morocco was land acquisition, land equipment, whether land was expensive, whether land was available, whether land was affordable, and bureaucracy and administrative procedures, etc. So being aware of that, we said, okay, we have to help the investor to have more clarification and an easier environment to be doing business with. The first thing the investor does not want is to be spending time in finding the land and start having bureaucratic problematics, etc., instead of being focused on his business, on what he knows how to do and what to do. Sometimes bureaucracy and administrative procedures are not something he's good at because he just doesn't enter his state of mind. So in order to do that, to facilitate for an international investor to be present in Morocco and to develop its business, we have developed 22 integrated industrial parks, some of which are already in place, others are under construction, all throughout the country, so that whatever he chooses and whatever the sector is, he can then make the choice, and once he has made the choice, all the facilities are there because the land is there, it's already present, it has administrative procedures within it which are already done, and it's very easy. Just come and plant your plant and do your business. These industrial parks can be either sectorial, like this is for offshoring, for instance. We have Rabat, Casablanca, Marrakesh, and others. Can be aerospace business in Casablanca, in automotive, agriculture, but they can also be just general industrial parks. So the investor can choose the region, the city, the sector, depending on the sector of activity. And one thing we found interesting is that usually, and it happens very often, the regions are in competition one with the other. So then they need to provide the environment and the package, the most competitive package to the investor, because the different regions are being a little bit in competition. And that enables them to make the best offer and services to the investor. Now, here's the location of Morocco. Here's where we are right now. Morocco has a lot of free trade agreements. We have free trade agreements with 55 countries, among which the Emirates. We have a competitive labor cost, and we have access to Europe, Middle East, Africa, and also the American continent. Now, we believe we are not the only country to have one or the others of these advantages, but we believe we are the only country to have them all together at the same time in this region. So we felt that with a certain number of international investors, we have the capacity to be a solution to their competitive problems if they have some. And it has been the case, especially after the international crisis. But also, we offer them not only a solution on short-term basis to their competitiveness, but also capacity of exporting to regional markets. So these are the countries with which we have free trade agreements. We are the only country in the world to have the advanced status with the European Union. But that goes back to the history that we have with the European Union and the strong relationship